Hey everyone, and welcome. This is a special re-edit of the Sip&Talk podcast, brought to you by our sponsor Micky, where we break down a really complex issue into its key parts. Today, we are diving headfirst into a war of words. Is it a concentration camp, or is it a re-education camp? We're going to unpack what happens when language itself becomes a tool to shape reality, and why that's a huge challenge for the whole world. So, right off the bat, this is the core of the issue. This isn't just a simple disagreement over facts. Nope. It's a battle over the very meaning of words. On one side, you have language that describes potential crimes against humanity, and on the other, you have descriptions of, believe it or not, a vocational school. So the big question for all of us is, how in the world do you find the truth when language itself is the battlefield? Okay, so here's our game plan. We're going to break this down into 4 parts. First, we'll look at the reality on the ground in Xinjiang. Then we'll get into the doublespeak playbook that's used to talk about it. Third, we'll see how this whole model is actually expanding beyond its borders. And finally, we'll zoom out to understand the bigger battle for meaning that this creates for everyone. All right, let's dive into part 1, the reality in Xinjiang. Before we can even begin to understand this war of words, we have to see what those words are trying to describe, or maybe more importantly, what they're trying to hide. So I want you to meet Guan Heng. His story is incredible. He's a Chinese citizen who just wasn't buying the official narratives, so he did something unbelievably risky. He drove into Xinjiang with a hidden camera to see for himself, and the footage he managed to smuggle out, it gives us this raw, unfiltered view that just cuts right through all the official spin. And this is where the disconnect becomes just impossible to ignore. On the left, you see what Guan Heng filmed. High walls, barbed wire, guard towers. They look like prisons, right? But on the right, you have the official descriptions, which sound like a brochure for a community college. It's a total clash with reality. I mean, since when does a beautiful campus need armed guards and watchtowers? This right here is the first move in the playbook. Just rename reality. And we need to talk about the scale of this because it is just staggering. According to Amnesty International, it's estimated that over 500,000 Uyghurs and other Muslim minorities are still being held in these camps or in prisons. This isn't some small, isolated program. We're talking about a massive, systematic operation. And it doesn't stop with the camps. International bodies, including the UN, have documented a much wider system of oppression. They've put together reports detailing all of these actions, and their conclusion is that these things may actually amount to crimes against humanity. That's an incredibly heavy term. So you see, this is about so much more than re-education. It's about a systematic attempt to control and fundamentally remake an entire culture. So how is a reality like that masked from the world? Well, it's done through something we're calling the doublespeak playbook. And you have to understand, this isn't just about Xinjiang anymore. This is a deliberate strategy that's now going global. The core tactic here is something George Orwell famously called doublespeak. It's basically the art of making terrible things sound perfectly harmless or even good. Some analysts are now calling it China's characteristic grammar, a specific way of using language to twist reality until it fits the official story. And once you see the pattern, you can't unsee it. A concentration camp becomes a vocational training center. Forced labor is rebranded as a poverty alleviation plan. Cracking down on free speech in Hong Kong is just restoring order. And threatening a democratic neighbor with military force? That's called peaceful unification. The formula is crystal clear. Take something negative and slap a positive-sounding label on it. And this is the part that is really, really crucial. This playbook is expanding. The exact same model of control, and even the exact same words that were developed and tested in Xinjiang are now being aimed squarely at Taiwan. And hey, don't just take my word for it. This isn't some analyst's theory. This is a direct quote from China's ambassador to France. He said it out loud. The term re-education, the very same justification used for the camps in Xinjiang, is now being explicitly threatened against the 23 million people of Taiwan. The playbook has officially been taken on the road. This timeline really connects all the dots. What kicked off as a domestic control strategy back in 2017, it morphed into a stated foreign policy goal by 2022. And now, it's evolved into this full-blown campaign of intense pressure on Taiwan, using all kinds of tactics. Now, here's the key point. In a way, the war has already begun, just not with missiles and tanks. These hybrid threats are an all-out assault on every front, and they're designed to do one thing: break Taiwan's will to resist. The goal is to sow chaos, create division, and foster a sense of hopelessness so that people feel defeated before a single shot is even fired. And the psychological tactics being used here are incredibly sophisticated. I mean, check this out. One strategy is called small scolding, big help. Here's how it works. An influencer might offer some small, totally believable criticism of China. That makes you trust them, right? They seem balanced. But once they've earned that trust, they pivot to the real message, praising China's core strengths while hammering home this idea that Taiwan's democracy is failing and hopeless. It's a classic bait and switch, but for your mind. So let's pull the lens back. What's the ultimate takeaway here? This is so much bigger than one region or one issue. What we're actually witnessing is a battle for meaning itself. It's a global contest between two fundamentally different ways of seeing the world: democracy and authoritarianism. At its heart, this is a clash between two systems that just aren't compatible. Democracies generally see disagreement and debate as a feature, not a bug. It's a sign of a healthy, strong society. But authoritarian systems see dissent as a threat, like a disease that has to be stamped out to maintain stability. And what's the cure for that disease? Well, that's where re-education comes in. And this brings us to a question that's really worth thinking about. If a system of government is truly better, if its ideas are truly superior, why does it need to force people to believe them? The very need for re-education seems to suggest a deep-seated fear of what might happen if people were just allowed to think for themselves and choose freely in a marketplace of ideas. And that leaves us right back where we started, with this one crucial question. When words are used as weapons, how do we find the truth? When a camp is called a school and coercion is called assistance, the responsibility really falls on us. It's up to every single one of us to look past the carefully crafted labels and see the reality they're designed to hide. And that's all we have for this explainer. If you want to dive deeper into this topic, this entire breakdown is based on the amazing Sip&Talk podcast, so please go subscribe to them. And a huge thank you to our sponsor, Micky. You can find a link to Micky's channel right there in the description below. Thanks so much for watching.